I've been a big fan of South Park for many years now, and the newest season just had its first episode come out. It leaked online via Twitter. Sermon on the Mount has already gotten people saying, South Park is back, it's great, and all that, but I don't think so. I've recently been diagnosed with the condition of being a cynical ass.
Oh no.
And I'll say it. This episode wasn't just disappointing, it sucks. Like most episodes of South Park, it's separated into two plots. Plot A is centered around how PC Principal is forcing Christianity into the school. PC now stands for Power Christian. Randy doesn't like that's being forced onto his son and wants to push back against this movement. Plot B is about Cartman and his struggle with realizing that woke is dead. Everybody is ripping on Jews and is saying slurs now. He's losing his identity as the most anti-Semitic bigot in South Park. This forces him into a depression, and then he forces Butters into a suicide pact. However, calling it a plot is doing it more justice than it really deserves. It's about 5 scenes in total and only serves to be comedic relief. The B plot is funny enough and it's just fine, but the A plot is the weakest part of the episode. If you've seen anything about this episode, it's probably all the Trump clips. They completely removed Mr. Garrison from the White House, and now it's just Trump. What do they do with him? Do they, comment on his policies or anything like that? Well, no. They just tell the same Trump has a small dick jokes that we've been hearing for the past 8 to 10 years. All the Trump scenes are just not that funny. It's the same joke again and again, and it serves little to no relevance on the plot until the very end. The best comparison I can really make is that these Trump scenes feel like a Family Guy cutaway gag. You think that's bad? Well, what about the time I walked in on Trump and Satan having gay sex?
Another random bitch commented on my Instagram that you're on the Epstein list.
The Epstein list? Are we still talking about that?
You stupid!
This episode is tainted by the 20th season and how they completely dropped the ball with the original Trump plot and all the crap with Mr. Garrison. It's almost like they want us to just completely forget that all of the scenes with Mr. Garrison as Trump ever happened. There was no mention of Joe Biden in the past few seasons or specials. He wasn't ripped on for being an incompetent president or falling down the stairs. Fun fact, South Park has never mentioned, featured, or mocked Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. Odd for a show that parodies reality. What about this episode? The episode he's referencing here isn't really making fun of Barack. He's shown to be competent and really smart, pulling off this really awesome jewelry heist. This isn't really making fun of him or parodying him in the same way that they've done with Trump. This was 17 years ago. I wanted to go back to this. So we went from they didn't attack Biden to, oh, it was 17 years ago? Lamau. It's okay if your goal is an agenda, not truth. Lamau. South Park has ripped the left to shreds. This is sad and pathetic. It was so easy to expose you, I kind of feel bad. What'd you expose? If anything, you exposed yourself. You exposed your own ignorance to the show you're trying to talk about here. Keep trying. The woke right is the worst. South Park rips on everyone. This is sad and pathetic. I hope you find happiness. And just to set the record straight, I'm not a MAGA boy. I didn't vote for Trump. In fact, I think voting and democracy in general is really gay. I didn't like these jokes because, oh, I'm upset that they made fun of Trump. I didn't like these jokes because they're not funny jokes. We have heard Trump has a small penis from SNL for over 10 years now.
You're welcome.
Sir, I love you, and I don't care what they say, I know it's big.
Let's get another person up here.
And them adding in a line about, oh, he's on the Epstein list. Does anyone actually think this episode of South Park is what's going to get Trump incarcerated? So people clapping, yay, they own Trump. They got him. South Park is cooking with this one. You're all retarded. Good morning and happy Thursday to everyone who loves the way the South Park guys absolutely cooked Trump in their test season premiere. He is going to hate the accurate size depiction of his tiny member. Be a shame if everyone retweeted this. Oh my god, South Park went full scorched earth on Trump tonight. Some people are asking if this little bit at the end is AI generated or if it's a dude in a fat suit. And if it is AI generated, oh, I thought we were against using AI generated content. Oh, but, it's made to poke fun at Trump's small penis. So, of course it's okay when it's done that way. Lamau! South Park is gonna piss off all the conservatives. So who's that retarded in the White House? And it's fucking Trump! Oh my god, they owned him! I didn't think South Park could shock me anymore, but putting Trump's face on Hussein's character is wild. I remember Hussein. I just watched the new South Park. Trump is not gonna be happy. Dude, South Park is so back, man. The whole episode just being there to piss off Trump and make fun of Paramount. Oh, dude, it's so funny. MAGA right now. South Park was funny when Cartman cooked and fed a kid his own murdered parents in front of Radiohead. But then making fun of Trump, man, that's just too far. But the Trump stuff isn't my biggest problem. I think this episode completely disregards Matt and Trey's philosophy for writing a script.
Each individual scene has to work as a kind of funny sketch. You don't want one scene that's just like, well, what was the point of that scene? We found out this really simple rule that maybe you guys have all heard before, but it took us a long time to learn it. But we can take these beats, which are basically the beats of your outline, and if the words "and then" belong between those beats, you're f***ed.
The plot of this episode follows the dreaded "and then this happens" form of writing. As the episode goes on and on, more and more plot points just happen. Let me do my best to describe the plot start to finish. Cartman wakes up and learns that his favorite radio station is shut down. He realizes that being anti-woke and edgy is becoming more and more mainstream. It's no longer the counterculture, it's just the culture. PC Principal announces that Christianity will be forced on the student body. Stan tells Randy that Jesus showed up at school, and then Randy starts a counterculture movement against Christianity being in school. He leads a mob to Garrison's house, and then we cut to Trump in the White House, and a bunch of small dick jokes. Eric is depressed and forces Butters into a suicide pact. And this part of the episode is actually really funny. I could drop the cynical black-pilled, oh this episode sucks and blah 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 attitude for a second. All the scenes with Butters and Eric are really funny. We cut to the principal's office, and here Stan was forced to eat with Jesus at lunch. Power Christian principal bullies Stan into agreeing with him, and then we cut to the White House and get more Trump small dick jokes. Trump does eventually talk to Randy, and over the phone he threatens to sue South Park if he continues to protest. We then cut to a 60 Minutes episode, and it's being made about the protest that Randy has started. And before things get out of hand, Jesus arrives and convinces everyone to drop the lawsuit. The town settles for a payment of $3 million and the condition that they have to make pro-Trump commercials. The episode ends on, you guessed it, a Trump has a small penis joke. Obviously, I paraphrased a lot, and condensing a 20-minute plot into 2 paragraphs might make it sound worse than it is. But I really do think that this is a decent summary of the plot. There's a lot of, and then this happens, pushing the plot along. I'm sure some of you caught on to this, but once again, it's Randy who spearheads the main plot. He's the one who riles up the town. He's the one who talks to Trump over the phone.
Generally, the idea is that public schools have to maintain a separation of church and state, so they can't promote any one religion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The government can't force a religion on my son. What the hell is this president doing? He doesn't even act like a Christian. Why is he pushing it on our kids?
Randy is Christian. This isn't even an issue with continuity, like how his geologist job has just been completely abandoned. In season 22, there's the episode A Boy and His Priest. Yeah, they're going to church to rip on Father Maxey, but they are still going to church. This is after he moved to Tegrity Farms. I know South Park isn't known for its tight continuity, but this has always been a key aspect of the Marshes. So seeing Randy push this agenda just feels wrong. Or maybe it's just it feels half-baked. What if there's a scene where Stan just asks Randy, Dad, why the hell are you doing this? And Randy just flat out says, the plot needs me to. That could be really funny, where they just flat out show Randy is doing whatever the plot needs him to. But they don't do that. The plot feels off once again because it's Randy being shoved into it, being the focal point. And then you add in the Family Guy cutaway gags with Satan and Trump, and now you've got a bloated episode with a half-baked plot that goes against Matt and Trey's core writing philosophy. I think the most disappointing aspect of this episode is it had a really great setup. Eric losing his edgy identity and PC Principal going overboard with Christianity, it's really funny. It completely catches you off guard. But the plot, funny enough, loses the plot a few minutes in. However, I don't want to be the guy who only bitches and complains. I want to give my thoughts on how I would fix the episode. First and foremost, let's establish what makes a good South Park episode. It needs to be funny, have topical references to some form of pop culture or celebrity, and most importantly, push some kind of boundary. Obviously, not every episode of South Park follows these points. Some episodes aren't funny, some have little to no pop culture references, and some don't push any boundary. But the most beloved episodes do at least maybe 2 out of these 3 things. I want to keep the core plot of the episode intact. The first 3.5 minutes are great. It sets up Cartman's internal conflict and a new problem at the school with PC Principal. Cartman explicitly says,
It seems like everybody's changing and suddenly woke stuff is off limits. I mean, it's like now everyone rips on the Jews and it's totally fine, huh, Kyle?
but throughout the episode, we hear no one else make Jew jokes. So my biggest change is the plot now centers around this conflict. Cartman isn't the only one ripping on Kyle for being Jewish now. We'll cut to lunch and show the scene where Jesus sits with the boys. Kyle can pull out a Jewish lunch like matzo ball soup, and before Cartman makes a joke, someone else like Jimmy or Craig rips on him. Now we get to see the change Cartman brought up and how Cartman is distraught. Oh, someone made the joke before me, but I'm always the one that makes the Jew jokes. We'll then cut to PC Principal and he's screaming in the halls again. Someone was interviewed in the school paper and he said we need to uphold the separation of church and state in the school. This sets off PC Principal. When he finds out who did this interview, he will bring down the righteous fury of God himself upon that student. This is actually where we'll shift the focus of the plot and play on the viewer's expectations. Kyle is desensitized to all of Cartman's crap. He's used to it, but not Ike. Ike is now getting ripped on, and unlike Kyle, Ike will say something about it. Ike did that interview. We'll then cut to the Broflovskis eating dinner, and Ike will tell them what's happening at school, that Jesus is now sitting with them at the lunch table. Now instead of Randy spearheading this movement against Christianity in school, it's Gerald, you know, the actual Jewish lawyer. Like Cartman said, more and more people are ripping on the Jews now, so this will make them look bad. Oh, a Jew having a frivolous lawsuit? Well, it's just another day that ends in Y. And the news of this lawsuit will spread all around town. Remember, it's a very small, tight-knit community, so everyone's gonna know that Gerald is suing the school board. As the episode goes on, more and more people will rip on them in public. They'll go to the grocery store, try to get gasoline, and all the time, people are making Jew jokes towards them. All throughout the episode, we could show Cartman try his best to make these Jew jokes, but every time someone else beats him to it. I think it'd be really funny to see Cartman try to sneak around town and stealthily follow the Broflovskis, but not doing a very good job of it, of course. And this makes him fall into a more and more depressive state. Eventually, this builds up so much that Kyle thinks that they should just drop the lawsuit, that this is not worth all the harassment and ridicule that they're getting, that going to school with Jesus actually isn't that big of a deal. After all, Kyle has helped Jesus in the past. Kyle wouldn't really care, but Gerald insists that it's important to stand up for what you believe in. The climax of the episode will be that a mob is now surrounding the Broflovskis at their home and threatening them to drop the lawsuit. And who is leading this mob? Well, it's not Cartman. It's now the one, the only, the greatest rapper of all time, Kanye West.
They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Nigga, hallelujah.
But before the mob really gets out of hand, just like in the actual episode, the conflict will be resolved by Jesus giving a sermon. Not about Paramount canceling them and getting them to, shut the fuck up. But now it's about how forcing people to do what you want by the threat of violence is no better than Muslims killing people who refuse to believe in the Prophet Muhammad. The mob dies down, they apologize, and Gerald agrees to drop the lawsuit. But it's not out of fear, it's because he understands it's the right thing to do. PC Principal agrees to tone down forcing Christianity in school, and the episode ends with Cartman being the only one who rips on Kyle for being Jewish. But now, because it's only him doing it, PC Principal gives Cartman detention, which makes Cartman cry tears of joy. Everything is back to normal. Woke is not dead. My changes do a few important things. It makes relevant characters drive the plot in ways that make sense to their characters. Randy, pure and simple, does not fit well in the original plot. It pushes some boundaries by showing how society is changing by ripping on the Jews. I'm trying to take inspiration from what Matt and Trey have done in the past. Remember the episode where Randy says the N-word with a hard R on national TV? All the uses of the N-word are are relevant to the plot. If you remove those scenes, or even just censor them, the episode loses its relevance, it loses its impact. I'm using the same writing philosophy here. If you remove these Jew jokes, the plot wouldn't work. Most importantly, my changes keep the plot in South Park. It's centered around the townspeople and their dynamics. It doesn't need Family Guy cutaway gags to Trump, but we can keep the celebrity pop culture aspect with Kanye West leading the Fifth Reich. By the way, if you want a more in-depth video about Kanye's recent crash out, check out this video made by my friend Manic the Manic Mechanic. We can even keep the Cartman and Butters suicide pact bit by having them sit in the electric car, but now they hear a march going on outside and that's what gets them out of the car. Cartman is furious now. You're going to have an anti-Semitic march without Cartman? That would be hilarious. We could then have Cartman being the only one to defend the Broflovskis because the edgy counterculture movement that Eric so desperately wants to cling to would now be defending the Jews, which is something Cartman has done in the past, completely change his worldview and perspectives to ride with whatever is popular at the time. I'll acknowledge the argument that my episode is just rehashing or reusing some parts from older episodes. But remember, they made an entire episode about Simpsons Did It, and that every episode of every TV show from this point on is just reusing the same stories again and again and again. So I think I can at least get a pass on that. I'm just a retard on the internet. I'm not a writer working for Hollywood. The point I'm trying to make here is my issue with the Trump small PP jokes isn't just I don't find them funny, but they serve no relevance to the plot. If the plot at least made these moments relevant and important, I wouldn't have a problem with it. You know the episode TMI? Well, that whole episode is centered around these guys having small dicks, and they go on a rampage and hold people hostage because they're upset about their small dicks. If you remove all these, small dick jokes from this episode, the plot falls apart. They're necessary for the plot to work, but the scenes in this episode can just be removed entirely, and the plot stays just fine. Even bad jokes can still stay relevant as long as they keep the plot moving forward in some way, but this episode does nothing with it. I get the original plot is a meta commentary about Paramount's firing of Stephen Colbert, who worked for CBS, which is part of Paramount. Then this episode comes out and it's all about Trump suing South Park. And then Jesus says, stop this protest or you're gonna have Paramount cancel us. I understand the meta commentary, but I think them doing this commentary hurts the episode. It tries so hard to make this commentary work, to force it to work, that it bends the rest of the episode around it in a poorly thought out way. Is this really all people want from South Park now? Meta commentary at the expense of the actual episode's quality and humor? There have been good episodes that properly intertwine the meta narrative and the actual episode, but not this one. There are too many scenes of people saying this is happening, but the episode doesn't show us. Show don't tell is one of the basic ideas for writing a story. Cartman says more and more people are making fun of Jewish people, but we never see anything like that. Maybe it's one of Cartman's many delusions. Maybe he's looking too deep into something that's not actually happening like he's known to do. But we don't get a scene showing us that he's wrong, that it is just a delusion. That could be a good way of moving the plot along. Show us Cartman fall deeper and deeper into a conspiracy that isn't there, like he did with Tolkien and the Black Panther movie. But we don't get anything like that. We get told that Jesus ate at the lunch table with the kids and that it was a problem, that there wasn't enough space and that was the issue, but we don't get to see that. Instead of getting relevant scenes that push the plot along in an organic way, we get to see Satan and Trump cuddle in bed, and then everyone claps. Yay! They made fun of Trump! They said he has a small dick! South Park is so back! I like South Park, but this episode just isn't good. Or maybe South Park has been going downhill for a long time now, and all it takes to get people to like it again is to rip on Trump. I don't like South Park just because it makes edgy jokes. I like the plots, the lowbrow humor, and the characters when it's done right. I've tried my best to use what Matt and Trey have said about the and then rule about story structure when I analyze episodes of TV shows. South Park as a whole has helped me understand what makes a good story and compelling characters. My version of the story isn't made to just make Jew jokes. I saw the potential this episode had, and it let me down. Then again, considering the episodes Paramount has banned, I doubt a scene with Kanye leading the Fifth Reich would ever be made. Isn't there a show that talks about the snowball effect that comes with banning even just one episode? Oh man, who said Either it's all okay or none of it is. Oy vey, I can't seem to remember who said that. Instead, we get Randy being shoved into the plot for the 50th time, and 5 wasted minutes of bad Trump jokes. For fuck's sakes, the episode is all about Jesus in school, and we get a scene of Satan in bed with Trump, but the two of them never interact. Why not make it Satan who's influencing Kanye West to stir up some chaos in South Park? Jesus confronts Satan about what he's doing and sends him back to hell, which makes the people of South Park go back to normal. Boom! There we go! I found a way to make relevant characters in the episode affect the plot in ways that make sense to their characters. Also, I thought Satan died and went to heaven after he fought Man Bear Pig. So what, did he get kicked out again? I don't know, but it's so funny seeing him reference his past relationship with Saddam. Do you guys remember that? Oh, I remember! If you disagree with my points, by all means comment why I'm wrong and why Trump's small pee-pee jokes are necessary for the plot and progression of the characters in the episode. But that's enough for this video. I'll see you guys next time.